This is the Business Owners IT Podcast with Anthony Gerasch and Ryan Carter, where tomorrow's technology meets today's conversations.
Hi, I'm Tony Gerasch.
And I'm Ryan Carter, and this is the Business Owners IT Podcast.
A podcast where we discuss tips, tricks, and solutions for business owners involving all things tech.
Hey, Tony, how many podcasts have you done before?
Hey, this is our first podcast, so we're going to take a stab at this and see if we can add some things that are meaningful for business owners as it relates to IT.
All right, let's dive right in to the weekly review. The first thing, it's hot on everybody's mind. It's all we talk about. It's all we've heard about the past week is CDK.
Yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to say, what is CDK to begin with?
Yeah. So CDK it used to be ADP, but CDK is the software that runs the car dealerships, pretty much in the United States. I think they claim they have 15,000 car dealerships that they provide software to run the dealerships. Basically, it's their ERP system.
And them being down, what is this doing to our dealers? Yeah,
so, I don't know if everybody's aware, but CDK has been hacked, basically. They got ransomware. They got ransomed, and then the articles I read, they started to restore, and they got ransomed again. So, basically, the car dealerships have to go back to paper, and it's been a mess for them in that they can't, everything's back on paper and telephone, calling the banks, got to go to the banks. They can't get their license plates. They can't pay their employees. The employees get paid based on the job, like the service department, right? They're getting paid, if the job says it takes 3 hours, they get paid 3 hours. They finish in 1 hour, they get 3 hours. If they finish in 4, they get 1 hour. Well, all of that stuff is in the system. That's how they get paid. So, they're struggling to, how do you keep track of all the service people?
Yeah. And how much business maybe are they losing at this time?
Yeah. I think they're still, I think they're still finding ways to get this thing done. It's just taking a lot longer. And I think, CDK is just one example. I think everybody needs to ask themselves. We have people that say, I'm in the cloud, so I'm safe. If you're in the cloud, are you really safe? You need to sit back and ask yourself, what happens tomorrow if, the software I use every day doesn't work because it's been hacked or ransomed?
Yeah.
Every business owner needs to reflect on that.
Or you're trusting a cloud company to keep maybe your backups, and then what would happen? Well, like you said a second ago, CDK, they restored, and then all of a sudden they were hacked again. So did they get back in? What happened?
Well, yeah, so chances are, the average amount of time that somebody's in a system, I think, has been quoted like 300 days. These hackers could have been sitting in the system for days, right? They could be, what's being backed up could have malware in it, or, ransomware is just software, so they could have this software inside of it that redetonates every time they restore because their backups aren't clean.
Understood.
Yeah. The other way it could happen is that maybe they had more than one way in. Maybe it's a whole nother hacker. Who knows? It could be, there could have been two people in there. They're not going to tell us, right? It could be one hacker in there, one hacker in there. Oh, they detonated. Oh, they're restoring. Well, we better detonate and see if we can do it. We just don't know.
So multiple threat actors at once could actually do this.
It could. You don't know.
So me as a car dealership, how do I know my computers are safe against CDK's, these multiple attackers that could be in their systems?
Well, yeah, that's another good point. So the car dealership's CDK software or center is connected to every car dealership. They have a VPN. And for people who don't know what a VPN, it's called a virtual private network. It's basically a network connection or a tunnel from CDK to the car dealerships. So you need to protect against that, right? So you need to protect against that. That's a weak link. If the threat actor got into the VPN and transversed that tunnel to the car dealership, it can affect every car dealership.
So how do I protect myself?
Well, the way we protect them, right, is we use a product called Threat Locker. And what Threat Locker is, it's application whitelisting. So, it's block everything. Don't trust any application. Don't trust any software. Block everything and only allow what's allowed. And in addition to the applications being blocked and that functionality is a thing called ring fencing. We don't let software like PowerShell or web browsers or things like that to access the internet. So for the car dealerships we have, they're protected because even if they would have came through that tunnel and tried to attack their computers, right, they can't run any software on there. And ransomware is software. That's all it is. Malware is software. It's nothing more than software. The same kind of software you use for Microsoft Word, Adobe, any of those things, it's all software.
So, I mean, in our world and in the perfect world that we want to see for IT, zero trust is the way we want to go, and this is one of the ways to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, and zero trust there's a couple parts of zero trust, but the main part to zero trust is you always got to assume that somebody's in your system. You have to assume that somebody is in your computer. That's the first start of it. The second part of it is that you block everything and only allow what's needed.
So if the guys at CDK were smart and had Threat Locker, this may not be a conversation we're having right now.
Absolutely. So if they deployed, application whitelisting and it was deployed right, yes, chances are what happened to them today would not have happened to them.
Okay, so since we're talking about Threat Locker, I'm just going to ask you this. As a business owner, I get Threat Locker. Now, this is application whitelisting, so everything's going to be blocked unless it's allowed. How hard, what's it going to do to my people? Are my people not going to be able to work while this is going on and you're getting the system up and running, or how's it going to go?
Yeah, so Threat Locker has a couple pieces to it, right? We know that. It has a learning piece where we know that we don't have any bad software on our computers. It learns the environment, right? Once it learns the environment, then our techs go in and we make sure that nothing is being blocked, that is, or ring fenced. So ring fencing is also a very important part of that. Nothing's being blocked or ring fenced, and then we secure it. After that, if we have applications, because you're going to have applications that get updated, right? Remember, we're learning the software. If the software gets updated, we got to be able to future-proof that. Every time an Adobe update comes out, or every time a Microsoft update comes out, or a Windows update comes out, we can't be going in and whitelisting it before it goes. So there's a ability to future-proof it where you can use, I don't want to get too technical here, but you can use security certificates, you can use the hashes, you can use the paths, and the uniqueness of the software to future-proof it. So when they get updates, that software update comes in, it doesn't affect the client. I mean, I think we have probably 2,500 endpoints that are using Threat Locker today, and it doesn't create that many tickets for us. We don't have people screaming at us they can't work.
Now, I know we were talking about CDK, but I'm going to spin this just for a second with you. Mm-hmm. So Threat Locker, we have it on 2,500 endpoints of our clients, right? What is that helping them protect, right? Is that helping them protect them from us if we were to have a supply chain tech?
Absolutely, and every business and owner needs to do this. If you have IT guys, you need to ask them, what are you doing to protect our systems from your software? It is true. We manage 3,000 endpoints at Unique Computing Solutions, so we manage those, right? But everybody that has Threat Locker, they don't have to worry because our customers don't have to worry about our stuff because our own stuff cannot run on there, right? Unless we whitelist it. So, I can give you the administrator passwords to our remote monitoring management. I can give you the administrator passwords to computers. I can give you all this stuff, but the end game is if it's not been approved, it's not going to run. So if you get into our monitoring and remote management, right, you get into that situation, and you want to try to create a power script, right, to do something to everybody's computer that's hooked to our stuff. If they have Threat Locker, even though we push it out, running at the system level on RMM, it's not going to run.
Okay. So, another part to that is that we are approving it, correct?
Yes. So we're approving it. So our techs would have to go in and approve that script. So if you wrote a good script, which you just recently did for some cloud continuity or cloud backup, right? You guys wrote the script and you guys were having some problems with it, right? And we had to get the Threat Locker piece of it to work so that script could run on our customer's computer, so it could install backup software for the endpoint. So, and everybody in our company doesn't have access to be able to whitelist things. They can approve things, but they don't necessarily have the ability to future-proof and do those types of things. And
on our side, one thing we're doing to ensure that those techs are approving the right things is we're having them go through a certificate process with Threat Locker, to be a certified cyber hero. And I think that's a good thing that we're doing on that end. They do get a little extra for doing that, and I think that's the smart way to go, is that the smart people and the right people are actually approving these things instead of someone just fresh off the street, brand new to the team and things like that.
Yep, that's very important because Threat Locker has a lot of functionality, and you also need to know, is this malware you're approving or is this something that's legitimate? It could very well be malware. It could very well be, people, you get the ability to click a request, request, whatever they call it. I want to do this, so can I request that to get whitelisted? Our techs have to look at it and make sure that it's a legitimate software.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, another way that attackers have been getting into systems is through business email compromise.
Yes.
And we've been seeing this a lot. I mean, a lot. Yeah. But I do want to bring up one instance that was recent that I like to call the double trouble incident. And would you be able to take us through that a little bit? Because you actually took a personal piece in this one and helped out.
Yeah. So we had some we have a few multiple insurance companies, or insurance brokers. And a Chicago-based company email was hacked, or was I don't like to use hacks, was compromised. So this insurance company that provides services to insurance companies, one of the key people there had her email compromised. And what happened is they ended up sending out emails to all of their customers. So the person that was compromised, right, that sells to insurance companies, was compromised. So they hit they sent emails like 3 or 4 of our customers. Well, the nice thing about it is, one of our customers did go through and get sucked in and put in her credentials. But, we have managed detection response on our Office 365, right? So we're able to, we detected it, right? And the Security Operations Center, which we use Huntress, Security Operations, since it's isolated the host or isolated her email address, kicked them out, right? And then we get called in and we clean it all up and get them back and going. So we did not facilitate the spread of that because, our customers are, we have customers that have managed detection and response on their Microsoft 365 tenant.
With Huntress, right?
With Huntress.
So how long did it take? 3 days, 4 days for them to find it?
No, we found it like immediately. It was like we found it within, it was within 10 minutes of whatever was happening. We knew about it. The person was kicked out, and we went over. We called them up. We set their password. We have a whole checklist. What we do if a email is compromised, right? But the thing that I want to do is I did take it personal. I actually emailed the company because I went through all of my customers. Right, we had like three or four customers. And we went to our customer and said, hey, don't open this email. This person, because her email's compromised. And we already had one person do it. So some of the, being bigger, we can look and see how many people actually got this email. And even though they have the stuff to catch it, right, we can prevent it by just telling them, hey, this email's compromised from this person, delete it.
Yep. Now, I thought we got 2 alerts from 2 separate clients that they actually clicked and went through the whole email process. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it was just one, but I'm not. Well, maybe it was 2. Maybe it was 2. You're right. It was 2 different ones.
Yeah, that's where I was getting the double trouble, but I was thinking maybe it's single trouble. I don't know.
It was 2 different ones, but we had already known by the second one. We already knew what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's your team that actually cleaned it up. So, and as me on the back end, I was emailing the customer saying, hey, this company, and it's embarrassing because it's preventable. I mean, business email compromise is preventable if you have the right tools.
So for the business owners out there, can we walk them through a business email compromise, maybe the tools that they use or things to look out for?
Sure. So what happens is, all of our customers have 2FA too, but 2FA is easy to get around. So even though you have 2-factor authentication on your Microsoft 365, you can get around it if you get phished through and go through an Evil Jinx portal. So what's happening is they go through this Evil Jinx portal, right, which is basically a man in the middle. And they go through and they put their credentials, in this case, they put their credentials in, they put their 2-factor authentication in, right? Well, at the same time, all the information was being returned to the user, right? Then all of the hackers on the other end got the security key, plugs it into their browser, and now they're you. And it's not just email, right? You can be Evil Jinxed with not just email. You can be, it could be your bank accounts. It could be anything that you put in your credentials. It's phishable.
Yeah. Now, one thing we see those attackers do is, they start maybe with in the United States with their attack, and then all of a sudden they kind of go maybe to Brazil and then over to Thailand, Singapore, and they just bounce all over the place. How can I prevent, as a business owner, from that piece happening?
Yeah. So, again, if you have managed detection and response, and you have, what they call conditional access. So we have a couple ways to prevent this thing called conditional access, where we say, okay, we can only get in from the United States, right? So we configure the Microsoft 365 tenant to only allow access, right, from the United States. And then when our customers go out someplace like to Israel, we have a lot of people that go to Israel, a lot of people that go to the Caribbean and Mexico. We have to allow that transaction to happen. So we have to say, okay, this guy's in Mexico, so allow content from Mexico. But given that part of it, the conditional access part, but I also want to talk about the Huntress part of it. That's called impossible travel, right? So if somebody does get into your Office 365 account, again, it's preventable with the conditional access, but it's also identifiable. You can identify that, hey, you know what, how can Ryan Carter be here in Illinois, but I see him logging in from Belarus, Ukraine, Russia, China.
Or even Arizona. I've seen the alerts come from
Arizona,
this guy's never in Arizona, but we got him logging in.
Yeah, and so what happens there, right, they use a VPN. So they're getting smart. Okay, you know, you guys, great, you installed conditional access, so I can't get my email from Russia or China or that. Well, why not just use a VPN that comes out of Chicago or comes out of the United States?
Yeah.
But it's still impossible travel. You cannot be in Illinois and be in Arizona at the same time. It's detectable, and then Security Operations Center, which is Huntress for us, isolates it.
Yep. They use VPNs. They spin up servers in Rackspace or something, and they go from there.
Well, that was another one that we had where somebody was using their business account to electrical company. They were using their business account, their Office 365 to fish people. I mean, that was another recent one I just thought of.
Yeah. You want to expand a little more on that?
Yeah. So we had a customer, a small electrician company, and you know, he came back. He left because, you know, it was not, we're just kind of like, he thought he was too small for us and whatever. But then he came back to me recently, and, you know, because, you know, I'm still friends with him. He came back to me recently, said, I need some help. And you got into their account, and what did we see? When you got into his account, after we got into his Office 365, what did you see?
Well, the attacker, first thing, once they got in, bought a new domain.
Yeah.
I looked
and
up
by the way, that guy paid for it.
What's that? Yeah.
He got two new domains.
Yeah, two domains.
And the electrician paid for it.
Yep, and didn't even know he was just paid a 365 bill. Yep,
Yeah.
let it come right out of the card.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, they fired up a couple domains. I tried to figure out what those domains were. Right, like, oh, what are these? Well, I couldn't find them, but then I was like, oh, this one looks like an I. So I changed it over to an I, and then it showed up that it was another company. And then I went into the emails and found out that this guy was, you know, some guy at company.com was trying to email him to his clients, but they kept getting denied because he had something. I think it was still pointing to like maybe his Barracuda. So they never actually went through. So then the attacker just disappeared from it, which is good.
I think the outbound transaction, we're still going through the Barracuda or something.
Yep. But he bought domains. He paid for licensing. I mean, he was just tearing up this guy's car. He could have done a lot more if he was smarter, which is good.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, because he was in there for what, 4 months?
Yeah.
3-4 months?
Yeah, in that situation, that the adversary, the hacker, got in, and you know, they tricked so the electrician guy, he got tricked in there. Hey, we're going to give you a free website. We need access to your 365 or whatever, and that's what he did. So he gave him the credentials. But once he got into that 365, right, he charges two domain names, and then he starts firing off emails, you know, from these things trying to fish big companies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was asking for transactions of, you know, invoice transactions and things like that.
Yeah.
It was a pretty amazing, and, you know, I couldn't believe it.
Which means that attacker was in someone else's email to know what
Yes.
those invoices were supposed to be, and then was pretending to be the guy that was supposed to send the invoice in.
Yeah. Yep. So the attacker was also in the person that the company was trying to fish at the same time.
Yeah. It's a pretty smart move, but not a smart attacker.
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
The Gaylord Resorts in Denver, Colorado, beautiful or not?
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, that was the PAX 8 event that we recently went to, where, you know, it's a cyber. Well, I call it cybersecurity conference, but basically, it's a conference. PAX 8 is a marketplace to buy tech for guys like us, and the big thing that we buy from PAX 8 is Microsoft licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess what Microsoft, you know, the nice thing about going to some of these events is you can learn what Microsoft wants you to do. And one of the upcoming things is Copilot. So talking about, you know, Chat GTP or Copilot as being, you know, AI for, Microsoft Word, Excel, Teams, PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So the generative AI of Copilot, have you used it?
Oh yeah, I've used it. I like to record my sessions in Teams and then have it write out the keynotes and to dos, and and then I also have it help me write emails.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know I know other people that are actually using the right code.
Yeah. I've used it to look at my emails. It always says I'm a little too harsh.
Yeah,
I think I'm a nice guy. I don't know why it's doing this, but it always says I'm a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, hey, Copilot, will you review this email? Yeah, you come back. It's a little bit too harsh, a little bit too direct.
But I mean, I got to look over your shoulder the other day. After you got done with the meeting, you took that meeting that you recorded, took the transcription, and it made the to-do list or made the notes out of it, like all the tasks or what you guys talked about, talking points. Mm-hmm. And then the best part is that within that same breath, you asked it to generate the thank you email.
Yes.
And I thought it did a great job with that. It didn't sound harsh at all.
Yeah. So after I had the meeting, you can ask it, hey, it's called prompting. You prompt Copilot, hey, could you write me a thank you email for this? And it'll write out the thank you email, and you go through and you clean it up, and it's yours. The nice thing about Copilot that we learned too is that it's the AI. It's not training a global AI, right? It's only training the AI that's being trained is only for your tenant, and Copilot only has access to what you have access to. So if you implement Copilot in your business, it's very important with those documents, right, to make sure that you have the right security and permissions on documents, so that the user doesn't get access to stuff they shouldn't have.
Yeah, because as owners, we don't want people getting into maybe people's pay, or future business plans that we're writing out, things like that. So we want to make sure we tag those in a certain way so that Copilot doesn't grab that because, say, someone else in the company has access to it.
Right. Yeah, because it's a powerful search engine, right? So, you could go through and say, hey, summarize all the salaries, and if there's salaries information in that it can see, then it's going to summarize it, right? But you might not even know as a business owner it's there. So there's a lot of stuff that's come, with AI and with Copilot. There's going to be a lot of governance around data, how you protect that data, and how do you make sure that people don't have access to that data.
Yeah.
Which, goes into frameworks.
Okay. And a little bit more back towards PAX 8. Mm-hmm. We talked about Copilot. I will tell you, the lazy river, I could have spent more time in there. It was very nice. It was nice out in Colorado at that time. Yeah. How about some of the cybersecurity stuff that we worked with? There was a good track there and just some good stuff that we learned from them. Is there anything, key points that you can remember that maybe a business owner might want to hear about?
Well, I'm trying to think. We did so much there. I don't know. I mean, a lot on frameworks, right? So there was some stuff on frameworks like CIS stuff.
And that's where I was going. Like what is a framework? Like, what are we talking about when we talk about a framework to a business owner? What's it going to help them?
Yeah. So there's lots of frameworks, right, out there. So the framework that we try to follow, are trying to get our clients to follow the CIS framework, right? So that is, it's basically kind of an outline of how businesses should run, or how you should run your IT. And then you get the FTC framework, right? That's another one. That's the one that's the Federal Trade Commission has came out with some guidelines. It's another framework that car dealerships and accountants and anybody in finance needs to follow.
Speaking of FTC, ever since the CDK hack, we've been getting a few emails from our car dealers asking about getting them on board with that framework now.
A lot of car dealerships, I think it was like last June, or June of 23, they had to be on board with the FTC framework, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of car dealerships said they weren't going to do it, or, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, after the CDK thing recently, we just got another car dealership say, hey, maybe we should revisit this cybersecurity stuff.
Yeah.
Now that we see what has happened. And it's true. People say, oh, it's not going to happen to me, but with any framework, the most important part of the framework, like if you look at the CIS framework, right? Mm-hmm. The most important part of the framework, like the first 1 and 2, is like you need to know all your users, you need to know all your devices. Mm-hmm. I think backups is like number 11.
Yeah.
Right? Backups the last resort. I mean, you can't restore, and I'm sure CDK had this problem too. CDK can't figure out where the compromise is if they don't know where everything's at. Yeah. You need to know all your devices. How do you figure out where it's at? How do you, maybe it wasn't even coming in through the data center. Maybe it was coming in through, one of the car dealerships.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the frameworks, and I think there's 18 of them and 3 groups with CIS. You look at those frameworks, and some of the most important things is right up front. Know your devices, know your.
Yeah, so you got to clean up your identity provider. If
Yeah.
you're using Active Directory or Azure Active Directory or what is it this week? Entra ID.
Yeah.
Just when you're using those things, you got to clean them up, and that's the first part of the CIS framework that they want us to do.
Computers and where things are at. Every device needs to be tracked. I mean, I think it's NASA that was hacked with a Fire Stick or a Chrome key in the back of the TV that they didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that plugs into your network, anything that connects to your wireless, is part of your network and is able to be hacked and is able to move laterally across your network.
Yeah, and for you business owners out there, you need to know that your wireless networks need to be separated from your private. Yeah. If you got a guest network, you need to keep that away from your private network, and that segregation is key.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't ever want to, we have some policies where at some of our customers where we don't want any cell phones connected to the private network. They have to only connect to the guest, and you have to segregate out. You don't want to give people your you want to keep those networks separate for sure.
Yep, and you want to know what's on that private network. Right. On your need to know what's connected and where it's connected and how it's connected.
Yeah. Even at my house, this is pretty funny. Even at my house, I think I have like 4 networks. I have one for my son Nicholas because I don't want none of his shit on my thing. Okay. The second one, I have my computer.
This is the dad coming out, not the business owner Tony coming out.
Internet, right? And the second wireless thing is only used for my computer and my home computer. And then we have the Internet of Things, right? That's where I have my automatic sprinkler hooked up to my I don't know, garage door openers. I have it all separated out. And then, then I have a network if people come over that I give it to them. Because I know that anything I plug in, I mean, I see these people, actually, this is funny, and my mother-in-law has it. They have this thing that watches the bird, right? It's like a bird feeder, and you can actually see it. I'm like, hey, no way I'd ever connect that thing to my
yeah, right,
network, right. Because I know that bird feeder that's taking pictures can be hacked, and then they can move laterally across and try to get into.
Oh yeah, and we've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it all the time.
Anything, yeah.
Or it's all going over to our good friends in China and giving them some good stuff to read.
Yeah, and actually, when it comes up, some of the stuff was even in Chinese. I couldn't even read it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I went to go connect it. So I can't believe I connected a bird feeder to a smartphone to the wireless network. But I did it.
Your poor son in his own network, huh?
Yeah, he's on his own network. There ain't no way he's going to connect
his own little island out there.
He even knows. He don't even ask for the password.
And for you guys that don't know, his son works for us, and he's very smart.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah. So, it's like,
Wait, didn't he hack your network one time?
Oh, he tried. I mean, yes, he well, what he did was he disconnected everything, plugged right into the Comcast. I mean, obviously, if you have a physical connection and you start disconnecting stuff.
But didn't he do something with your wife's password? It was a while back. I can't remember. It was like he found a way to get in through her stuff to get what he needed done.
Yes. So, this years ago. So I used to block the internet so they go to bed at night. So he found out that, mom's computer could always get through. So what he did was he changed her IP address.
Oh.
They made the IP address of his computer.
So they get it, see?
So he could get it. That's true, yeah.
So the only way you can catch hackers, business owners, is by employing hackers.
Right. That's true. That's 100% true.
Well, Tony, I think that kind of about wraps it up for us. So I really appreciate it. This is good talk.
This is our good first podcast. We'll talk about more things in the future. I'll try to keep going with what's going on with the hacks and how they go. But I guess I would like to thank everybody, for tuning in to the Business IT Owners Podcast. And we'll see you next week.
See ya. Thank you.
Unique computing solutions. Your IT challenges solved.